Now, the 21st presidential election kicks off early for overseas Koreans. Voting for Korean nationals overseas will begin on Tuesday in more than 100 countries around the world. We have our Oh Soo-young in the studio with the full details. Good morning, Sooyoung.
Good morning, Tammy.
So as far as I know, the voting for overseas Koreans have already kicked off in the Asia Pacific.
Yes, you're right, Tammy. Polls have opened about 5 hours ago in countries like New Zealand and Fiji and will stretch throughout the week before the polls finally close in Hawaii. Now, overseas voting for South Korea's 21st presidential election is being held from Tuesday to Sunday local time in 118 countries. Now, voting hours are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. According to the National Election Commission, overseas ballots for registered voters have been installed at 182 Korean embassies, consulates, diplomatic missions and offices. There's usually one polling station per country, but 39 additional polling stations have been installed where the number of overseas nationals exceeds 30,000. Now, in the United States, these include the states of New York, California, Massachusetts and Texas, opening from Thursday to Saturday. Voting booths were also added for the Korean military's Dongmyeong unit in Lebanon and the Hanbit units in Uganda. Now, specific times and locations can be found on the consulate websites.
Well, Sooyoung, this is where you remind our viewers and overseas voters what to remember before they head to the polling stations.
Right. Luckily, there are just a few things to remember. So you're definitely going to need a proof of identification issued by the Korean government, which includes a photo. So you can bring your passport, resident registration card or a driver's license. Also, official ID issued by your country of residence is also acceptable. Those who have immigrated abroad or have permanent residency, though, they need to bring a second document to prove that they remain solely Korean citizens. So a visa or proof of permanent residency would do. If it includes a photograph, then no additional ID is required. Now, once you receive your ballot paper, there are various precautions to be taken. Now, bear in mind that taking photos or videos and live broadcasting are strictly prohibited. Furthermore, voters must not tear or damage the ballot paper. Even if a mistake is made while marking the ballot, a new one will not be provided, so you'll have to be very careful. And having said that, presidential candidate number 6, Kujua of the Liberty Unification Party, has withdrawn from the race. But the ballot paper for overseas Koreans, they've already been printed and distributed. So if you mark number 6, your ballot will be made invalid. So please avoid doing that.
Right. Well, it seems more Koreans overseas have registered to cast their vote in this presidential election. Is that so, Sooyoung?
Yes, Tammy, you're right. So 258,000 are registered to cast their ballots overseas this year. That's 14% more than for the previous presidential election. Now, this time around, polling stations have been installed for the first time in 4 countries where new diplomatic missions were recently established. The countries would be Cuba, Luxembourg, Lithuania and Estonia as well. And suffrage is, of course, the most basic and essential of all fundamental rights in democracy. So South Korea's election authority asserts that any restriction on it must be kept to the absolute minimum. So we're seeing more and more countries, locations and options to guarantee and encourage voting for South Koreans everywhere. Now, note that anyone wishing to vote must have been registered by last month, so now is unfortunately a bit too late. It does take time, of course, to send ballot papers to each country and then receive them back via diplomatic pouch. The votes would be counted along with other ballots after the June 3rd election closes. Now, if anyone signed up to vote abroad, but are unable to do so for whatever reason in their country of residence, it's still possible to vote in Korea on June 3rd, the main day of the election. So citizens living abroad who are visiting Korea can actually join domestic voters at designated polling stations, but that's only if they sign up in person between next Monday and June 3rd at an election office with jurisdiction over their previous or last registered Korean address. So for more information, do visit ova.nec.go.kr.
All right. Well, for the next 6 days, it'll be decision time for overseas Korean voters. Sooyoung, thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having me, Tammy.